Alright guys, hello again. My name is Colin Mosbrugger. I am a home hunter from Lafayette, Colorado here. And this is my new series, Haunting 101. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to talk through a lot of the theory of haunts. I know the last video got a huge reception, so I'm going to make an effort to make this a series where you can learn as much as possible from it. As you can see, I couldn't get a whiteboard in here. I couldn't find a way to hang it, and this was the only place I could film. So I'm just going to put text up on this wall and make it magical with the magic of video editing. So without further ado, I'm going to get into this lesson here. Today I'm going to be talking about the flow of a haunt. Now what I mean by flow, no, not you. What I mean by flow is the way that scenes of a haunt interact with each other and how you get from the beginning of a haunt to the end of a haunt, following sort of a path that can be sort of standardized among successful haunts, we'll say. And you can certainly be successful deviating from this this six-stage flow strategy that I'm going to talk about, but I think it's just a good starting point if you're thinking about planning out a haunt, what order to put scenes in. So in this model there are 6 stages to the flow of a haunt. I'm going to talk through all of them and I'll show them all up here at the end, but for now you're just going to have a little anxious anticipation of what they could possibly be. Alright, so the first stage in any successful haunt, as patrons are very first entering into this new environment, before we jump into the scaring them, and don't get me wrong, we can scare them in this environment, but we want to present them with the storyline. What's the best way to do that is going to be presenting them with step 1, the detailed opening scene. This is the scene setter of a haunted house. This is how they're going to know what the environment is. They may have read your backstory online, but a backstory is not a place. I honestly can't say I've done a lot of these steps very well on my own, but this is one that I'm very proud of last year with our queue line that I built. I wanted to do that to provide an interactive, a place where they could really experience the environment and get accustomed to what they're going to be walking through before they're walking through it and dodging monsters. So step 2, after we've set the setting, it's time to fully throw guests head over heels into this new environment. How do we do that? We have to disorient them. Now, the way I think about this stage 2 is that we really want to get them as far away from the home that they came from as possible. So we take them from the real world and we plop them into our fantasy world. Standing in the first scene, you know, they still have the connection with the entrance, or in my case last year, the queue line, they still have that easy escape path. And what we really want to do to maximize the immersion into this otherworldly environment is to disorient them. So, step 3 is the biggest part of your haunt. It's probably going to take up 70, 80, even 90% of the haunt. It's called the meet, and this is where, when you think of what is a haunted house doing, this is probably what you're thinking of. Scaring people. The purpose of the meet is to scare people. Now, how do you do that? That's kind of a topic of another lesson entirely, but there is a little bit I'll touch on here. And there's a 3-stage cycle within step 3, the meet, that kind of explains how scare processes work. And that's build-up, payoff, and relief. Build-up happens when you enter into a scene. There's lights, ambiance, everything, all your props, yada yada yada, you know the story. And it's setting the mood, getting them expecting a scare. Payoff, as I'm sure you can predict, is the scare itself. I don't think there's much to talk about here. I certainly have another lesson I'm going to do just on startle scares, but now isn't the place. So payoff is the scare. Rah! Okay. Relief is what happens after the scare, and it's really necessary in order to help facilitate the build-up in the next scene going forward. So there has to be some way you work in that they can let their guard down after the scare. They get super freaked out from the scare, and then they have to let their guard down so that when they enter the next scene, the build-up can happen. If they're already tense, there's no build-up happening and no roller coaster. There's just up, no down. So you want to create that flow and that rhythm throughout your haunt. Now step 4, 5, and 6 is kind of the way of looking at this cycle, but on a larger scale. So, step 4 is the climax of your haunt. You need to go out with a bang. Why? Because it makes people remember you. Now, here's the problem with going out with a chainsaw bang. if your patrons go through your haunt, they get scared by a chainsaw at the end. Don't get me wrong, they get really, really scared by the chainsaw. But what do they go tell their friends? Well, the haunted house had a chainsaw. So does every haunted house in the world. So this climax stage is where you really want to give something to guests that no other haunted house gives them. Get creative, do something big and broad, and not just a chainsaw. Give them a big scene, lots to look at, lots going on, lots of actors popping out. And then you can save the chainsaw for later on, and you can put the chainsaw somewhere else. Step 5 is the relief. This is where we really let guests drop their guard, think it's completely over, walk out, see the light, see the parking lot. Oh, we made it, we're done. And then step 6, the final scare, this is where the chainsaw can come in. The chainsaw can come out here because they've had that climax in stage 4 where they have something big and memorable and special that doesn't make you like every other haunt. But stage 6, yes, of course you can have the chainsaw come roaring out. Or you don't have the chainsaw, you just have an actor around the final corner, once they think they're out, just bang a shovel on the wall or something. And that's where you're going to get very effective scares, because they'll have let their guard down so much. So I think that just about wraps it up for this Flow of a Haunt lesson. I have an entire blog post devoted to this, so I will link to that here, if I can figure out how annotations work. And then I'm also going to be creating a Facebook page for the Haunting 101, and that is right here. I love the magic of annotations, don't you? Purely fabulous. Okay. Alright, well that is it for this week. I'm going to try and keep this weekly. It may turn into bi-weekly as the chaos of the summer comes upon me, but this is a summer series I'm going to be focusing on. I know a lot of you home haunters, this is your planning phase or prop building phase, but you haven't really started the mazes yet. So hopefully sharing this knowledge will help spread it around. And if you can, give me a like, give me a share if you can. I really appreciate it, so thank you.